in my sample size of 2 trailers, it's on the left side, kind of at the front of both of mine. So anyway, so your trailer has a gross vehicle weight rating, right? And then your vehicle has a gross vehicle weight rating, right? So your trailer, if it can hold, 14,000 pounds, that's great, and you can put a giant excavator on it, but you can't tow that with, a standard SUV that many of us have and many folks come, to scouting with, right? So you need to make sure that your trailer, is less, has a gross vehicle weight rating of less than your vehicle can tow, right? So, if your vehicle is 7,000 pound towing capacity, you want to make sure your trailer is below that, right? And, yes, you can go right to the limit, but just know that, things get more difficult when you get to the actual limit, right? Anyway, next slide. I think I put the sticker for this one. So this one's hard to read, but basically it'll tell you what the gross vehicle weight rating minus the dry weight of the vehicle on all these stickers. So the trailer axle is rated, on one of these for 3,000 pounds. Well, the trailer, also is made up of weight, right? Empty. So the dry weight is always listed. And then there's a cargo weight. So this one says the cargo weight is 1,790 something pounds. So yeah, the axle can hold 3,000 pounds, but the apparatus of the trailer also weighs something, right? So you only have 17 pounds of carrying capacity there. So
Well, 17.
well,
1,700.
1,700, yeah.
Now we're doing math.
Yeah, sorry, math on the fly, never good. Oh, there we go. So yeah, so the dry weight is 1,281, total gross is 2,900. Yeah, I did the math beforehand. And so the cargo capacity for this white trailer, which is our troop trailer, is 17 and 8. 100 pounds. So if you go to the next slide,
which when you start loading water for debris quickly,
yep,
it goes up fast.
Yeah. So this is my black trailer, my little utility trailer. And so these are almost the exact same dimension. I think that the troop trailer is just a little bit bigger, but I have a heavier axle on this particular trailer. So the dry weight on this though is 1,300 pounds. So it's actually pretty close to the other one, and it's kind of overbuilt, which, anything worth doing is worth overdoing in my book. So I have a more sturdy built trailer than most, but it has a larger axle weight rating. And so the cargo capacity for my little cargo trailer is 2,199. So it actually holds more than my troop trailer does. But it's not covered. So, that's something to take in consideration. So usually the stickers will also have some tire information on it, which is handy. Some of these tire stickers will tell you like the PSI that you're supposed to keep in the tire, and that's great. But I would always refer to what that tire actually tells you, right? I mean, in theory, the guys that are throwing your tires on are looking at this sticker and matching it up, right? So, but I would trust what the tire tells me rather than the sticker on the trailer, which could be slightly irrelevant, right? So next slide. Yeah, so the basics to check. Wiring, everyone's favorite. That's a picture of trailer bearings, your wheels, your jack to make your tongue go up and down, tires, or rims, actually rims, tires, and then lighting and your connection, your trailer, stinger. So, it's a good idea to, at least check these before you're going to go somewhere for a while. If you're just going around town, a couple blocks, like, yeah, it's always good to check, right? But if you're going on a longer trip, you definitely want to make sure you check all these things. Next slide. It's a picture of tires, but it's a little hard to see. Next slide. So how old are your tires? So this is my statement. I will bet you $100 that your troop tires are dead.
I'll take that bet because it popped last year.
Ah, there you go.
We just did ours.
Nice.
We replaced ours 2 years ago. So
Yeah. All right. Good. So
before that, you were absolutely right.
yeah, exactly. So, I inherited a trailer with our troop, and I didn't really think about it too much. And then we were going to go to Camp Easton this summer, and I was like, I really should check these tires and see how old they are, because that's a long drive. So it's in northern Idaho. So we're going to go quite a ways. So Manufacturer's recommendation is every 10 years. And so basically, if you do the math and you drive 5,000 miles a year, you know, which I'm pretty sure most of these trailers are not doing that much. Unfortunately, that means your tire is going to die before your tread dies. Now, I know all of us are used to driving vehicles, and your tread, you know, is a pretty good indicator. I mean, I don't know that anybody probably has 10-year-old tires on their vehicle unless they bought a used one that was sitting for a long time. But yeah, it's sad. I mean, it looks like a great tire. It's got great tread. You know, the sidewalls aren't cracked out. Well, if it's 10 years old, and then you're going to load a bunch of stuff in it, and you're probably going to overload it because no one sits there and measures everything before they put it in, I would recommend changing your tires. So there is a way to do that. There's a DOT number on the side of all tires. And if you go to the next slide, yeah, it's possible to see, but basically it will say DOT, and then there's like a string of numbers, and then the last part of that little string is kind of like a little oval, and this one says 0122 because I just replaced them. But it basically the first two digits are the week of the year they were manufactured. So January 22 is the year that these tires are. My little other trailer are from 2016, so you know, probably should think about getting those replaced here at some point soon. But anyway, all your tires should have these on them, and if they don't, that's a bad thing because that means your tire is who knows how old, right? So yeah, anyway, just I would, if you don't do anything else, if you learn nothing from all my spiel, please go check and see how old the tires are on your trailer. That's my main.
And your spare for.
And your spare, yeah, because no one changes your spare because it just sits inside your trailer and does nothing, right? Hopefully it does nothing. So next slide. Yeah, just sort of the general bolt torquing pattern, right? I mean, this one's on my trailer. It's not on my other one, but you know.
Question on the tires.
Sure.
Are there types of tires that are appropriate for trailer use and when you're getting them moving to?
Yeah, so I mean, I basically just went to Schwab and said, hey, I need new trailer tires, you know, for this trailer, and they gave me the right ones. But yeah, I mean, they do look different than you know, standard car passenger tire. But yeah, I would just
Hitting the rim is not sufficient. It needs to be a trailer tire.
I think so. I mean, I would just, you know, I would talk to the experts at somebody, you know, tire shop, and you know, let them know what it's for, right? And they'll probably ask you, right? I mean, because in my opinion, the easiest way to change your trailer tires is just take them off and take them in, rather than trying to yard your trailer in, take it off, park it somewhere in their parking lot, you know, and go back and pick it up. I mean, you can do that, and I did that once, but you can also just take off your tires and just take them in, and then it's not as hard. But anyway, this is a handy sticker. Just lets you know that somebody with some kind of engineering did a good job of designing your trailer. It's just a National Association of Trailer Manufacturers. So if you're thinking about buying a new trailer, I would recommend getting one that has a sticker from somebody like that. Next slide. NECs. So good friend of mine who is an excavator. I was looking at his trailer one day because he tows his all the time, and I was like, what's all that goo you have on your lug nuts? I mean, it looks like, I mean, they're gray. It's a gray, this one happens to be a gray color, but it's like, it looks like they're kind of fuzzy and there's something on there. He's like, oh, that's anti-seize. I was like, anti-seize? He's like, oh yeah. He's like, it's great. So, you know, what happens with your trailer? Well, it sits outside, right? Or it sits on dirt, right? And for months and months of the year, it just rains and rains and rains, and the grass grows up, and all of your bolts for your lug nuts aren't really protected, right? Because I mean, you know, if you think about our standard car tires, a lot of them have like a little cover or something. Well, most of our troop trailers don't have anything, right? So all these fittings are just sitting out in the middle of the rust, or sitting out in the middle of the rain, right? So throw a little anti-seize on there if you take them off, clean up the threads first, and then throw some anti-seize on there, and that'll keep your nuts from getting stuck on there forever. So when you're sitting on the side of the road, you're not trying to break off, you know, your lug nuts when you're changing a tire. So that's a handy tip that I learned. So check your wheel bearings. So the best way I know to check a wheel bearing is just kind of jack it up off the ground a little bit and give your tire a tug. And if it feels like it's got a lot of play in it, you probably have bad bearings. If it feels like it's nice and sturdy, you know, you should be okay. but they do need grease every now and then. So it's hard to see this picture, but all of these trailer axles have like a little rubber cap on them that sits over a grease fitting that's actually behind here. So you can just pull that little rubber cap off, get a grease gun, shoot a couple, 2 or 3 shots of grease in there every once in a while, once a year, maybe is probably fine for all we use. And I was trying to make the point that on my trailer, I'm missing one, so I need to go get another one. So yeah, if you just leave that thing open, there's basically, just a pathway for water to get in there. So, so yeah, make sure they have a little rubber seal on them. Wheel chocks, super awesome. What happens when you get lazy and you forget to put them on? Ask me how I know. Your trailer gets blown from the wind and runs into one of your fences, and you get very sad that you did not take the 5 minutes or it's 3 seconds to throw your trailer chocks under your wheels. So, you pull up at a camporee or something, you're on a hill. If you're disconnecting your trailer, just take the 3 seconds. These are super cheap. They're like $5 at Harbor Freight, maybe $10. They smell terrible. So if you buy the rubber ones from Harbor Freight, let me tell you, they stink for like 3 years, but they're super cheap, and just throw them in there. I know it's annoying, but yeah, just throw chocks in whenever it's sitting somewhere for a long time. Or carry a spare tire. Make sure you have the right tire. This is not the right tire. I picked that on purpose. So when I used to work for Fish and Wildlife, we had field trucks that we went out and cruised all over the middle of the state, and they had a whole bunch of spare tires that were sitting in a cage. And so we went through and we're like, oh, this spare tire has 6 lug nuts. This spare tire has 5. So just because you have a spare tire for your trailer, make sure it actually has the right bolt pattern. That's kind of helpful when you actually need to use your spare. Carry a wrench, because the wrench that's in your car may not fit your trailer lug nuts, right? So make sure you have a wrench and throw them on some of your lug nuts to make sure they actually fit. Those little 4-ways will pretty much do any lug nut out there, and they're super cheap, $10 or something. So yeah, make sure you got one.
It's a nice big wrench, and then a jack. It's the car jack. If you've ever jacked a fully loaded trailer up with a car jack, you will immediately go out and buy a nice heavy duty trailer jack at your first hour.
Yeah.
That's a good Scout trailer purchase.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
your budget.
Like a bottle jack or a high lift or something. Yeah, because those little scissor lift that come in your vehicle aren't generally going to cut it. And sometimes they don't have a very big base plate, so they might sink in the mud, right? So that is definitely something to bring as well. Next one. So lights, everyone's favorite. Anybody who's ever towed a trailer knows that you just thank your lucky stars every time you plug it in and the lights come on, and all of them come on. So from my experience, it may not be your trailer lights that are a problem. It may be that your vehicle has a burnt out fuse because you shorted it last time when your trailer lights weren't working. And then you're like, I fixed all of my trailer lights. Why aren't they coming on? Well, it's probably the fuse in your vehicle that goes to your rear trailer light hookup. And yeah, so it's not always your trailer. So what you can do is if you're lucky enough to have 2 vehicles that can tow a trailer, plug it into the other one and see if the lights work, or phone a friend, which is my favorite in trailer repair. So yeah, most of the time, and this is again from long experience of rewiring and fixing trailers, if your lights aren't coming on, it's because you have a grounding issue. So I'm not an electrical engineer, but for whatever reason, trailer lights only need 1 input, and then they need to ground. I'm not sure why that works. Mike probably could tell us.
Chassis is ground.
Yes. So in theory, that makes a loop, I guess.
Yep.
And so what happens is that little ground wire that wherever is in your line may have gotten corroded, and it's not making like a good connection to your trailer rail or something, right? So, I mean, I would say 90% of the time, it's because you have a grounding issue to your lights. So then you have to go sort of follow the chain of where your wiring goes and see where it's grounded out, or your light bulbs are burnt out. Most trailers nowadays are LEDs. If they're not, and you have the chance to, just replace them with LEDs. It makes life easier. They're way more robust than your old school filament bulbs. And these things just pop out. It's kind of like a a little rubber gasket, and they're actually super easy to pop out. And then they're almost all the same standard size. You can just go down to Napa or whatever and get another set. Just make sure you got the same connector on the back that, you know, came with yours. Yeah, next one. Hitching balls, I mean, pretty standard, right? Make sure that your ball is the right size for your trailer hitch. All the trailer hitches I've seen usually will have like a sticker or a stamp on it that says like, hey, this is a 2-inch ball, this is a 2 5/16 or whatever it is. Make sure you're using the right one. And then all of these stingers or connectors have a weight rating also. So make sure that your weight rating for your trailer hitch is, you know, sturdy enough for your trailer.
Talking about the weight rating, is that the gross weight of the trailer or the ton weight?
Yes, so that's two different things, right? So the tongue weight is different. We'll talk about that in a minute, but yeah, so you want this to be able to hold like the entire gross weight of your trailer, right? Because this thing is pulling it, right? We'll talk about tongue weight in a little bit, but you're right. I mean, I think most of them are probably way sufficient for the tongue weight, unless you have like a very large trailer.
There are easy examples, because this is a modular design. Right? You put a 2 5/16
Yeah,
on a little weenie stinger,
right.
which I have in my house, and I only use it to tow my RV just around my little parking lot.
Yeah.
Right. I'm never going to go out to Niagara Falls with it,
Right.
because I have a different one for that, but it's handy to have.
Yeah.
But the ball itself, the size of the shade, has a shear strength, right? And that's going to be rated as well as the adapter.
Yeah.
So all these things fit together, and you need to know what your maximum is.
Yeah.
What a bad thing about it.
And make sure that nut's tight. Um,
Don't even have this for your troop. Use the next slide.
yeah, right. Yeah, so the next slide is pretty nice.
One.
Also check and make sure it's got that on the, if you go back to the previous level, there should be a locking.
Yeah,
A
lock
washer,
right?
a lock washer.
Yeah,
At the bottom. Seen problems happen with that. You know, somebody just put it on real quick when they were switching the ball size or whatnot, and
No lock washer.
Washer got
Didn't work out well.
driveway or something. And, oh well, it'll be fine. 2 years later. Oops.
So I'm sure most folks that are doing trailer work are familiar with these, but these are, you know, adjustable height, trailer hitches. And, you know, the idea is, you know, you don't want, you know, your trailer to be at an angle to your vehicle, right? You want it to tow in line. And so this can help you adjust up and down, you know, so that your trailer isn't, you know, doing a wheelie all the way down the road. And, you know, I always forget, but, you know, you can use them reverse, right? I never have had the need to do that.
So
Is it really?
it's so handy when you have one trailer that's a 2 5/16.
Ah,
There's 2.
there you
Flip it
go.
over, you're done.
Ah,
It's fantastic.
nice.
Highly recommend.
Yeah, so a weight balance is pretty key in trailers. This is a pretty fancy Stinger, you know, trailer hitch, and this actually has a weight scale in it. So this thing, when you put your trailer on, will tell you what your tongue weight is. And so, you know, your tongue weight is basically the weight that your trailer hitch can hold. You know, I mean, you wouldn't want a Honda Civic trying to hold you know, an RV on it, right? I mean, the tongue weight would just be tremendous, right? So so the cool thing about these is you can, you know, especially if you're hauling heavy equipment, heavy trailers, you know, some of these 2-axle trailers, I mean, I don't know how much weight's in there, but, you know, at some point, if you got, you know, 20, 25, 30 Scouts worth of stuff in there, I mean, you could start pushing the weight limit up, right? So you want to make sure that, you know, you don't have like 2,000 pounds of weight on your tongue, right? So
I think at least some of the newer ones are moving the axles further back for stability reasons, which means you got more ton weight. So it's also
yeah.
a give and take situation.
Yeah, so the idea with, you know, a scale on your tongue or on your connection there is that, you know, you can kind of mess with your load balancing, right? So if you got too much weight in the front, you can, you know, move some of it back so that you don't have a ton of weight on your tongue.
One thing we have in my troop is we have a little piece of PVC with a T on it that marks the height for the trailer to ride flat. And then when Joe or Schmo is towing the trailer, we can set the ball height with that load gauge and then it's kind of all set.
Nice.
So that's a really cheap thing that saves a lot of time because invariably they'll pick some random height and then you load it up and it's okay, it's wheeling or.
Yeah, and so, you know, this little demo or this little diagram just sort of shows the hazards of, you know, having your front to back weight sort of out of whack, right? So if you've ever towed an RV through some rough terrain, I'm thinking of that spot between Seaside and basically the turnoff to come back to the valley. Oh man, there are some huge waves in there, and if your tongue weight is really messed up, I mean, it'll lift the back of your truck off the ground, right? And the same with the other way, right? If you got too much tongue weight, it's going to lift the front end of your truck up, and then all of a sudden, you know, you're not going to have a really great steering. So, you know, getting it in line is pretty key, especially when you know, if you're right, again, if you're right at that limit, right? If you got a 7,000 pound towing capacity and your trailer and all the stuff in it is 7,000 pounds, you are going to be able to tell if that is off a lot. I mean, if you're only towing 3,000 pounds, you know, you could probably get away with some more, you know, some more out of balance. But, you know, yeah, if you're at the limit, you will find out very quickly whether or not your load is balanced. And so the same thing front to back, side to side. Ask me how I know about this. So my brother-in-law let me borrow one of his tractors. It's very small. It fit in the back of my little black trailer, just barely. And I didn't really take care to have it completely centered in the middle in the back of my trailer. And once I got about over 55 miles an hour, you have never seen a trailer like jumping around. I was like, oh, I think I'm going to slow down quite a lot. So yeah, so definitely, I was definitely at the max capacity of my little trailer and how much that tractor weighed. And, you know, once I got over 55 miles an hour, it was a galloping goose. And yeah, that was a very good illustration as to why you want to make sure your load is nice and centered, especially again, when you're at the limit of your, or maybe slightly over your capacity, right?
So added short story on Highway 217, I was behind grass cutters and they were towing some heavy pusher backhoe, but a small one. He was trying to stop, and that motion from the trailer that caused both the vehicles to jackknife. Totally lost control. Too heavy, and in panic stop. That was a bad situation. Keep it steady. Slow down, steady.
Yeah. Especially going to Merriweather and that
Yeah.
terrible section of road,
Right.
sort of past Gales Creek and up to the top of Browns Camp. Yeah, that's good times in a car, much less towing. So just an example of, you know, balancing your load, right? I mean, obviously the best way is to sort of center it over the center of the axles, right? Because that's where the most weight is going to be held. Like, you know, these are all the same amount of volume, right? And in theory, these are balanced, right? Because you got balance on the front and balance on the back, but you know, you've got probably too much tongue load and too much rear weight. So, you know, this is a better setup. Although this isn't bad either, right? Because it's all very low, right? I mean, if you can, you know, keep your heavy stuff on the bottom. You don't want it up at the top of your trailer swaying around. So yeah, if you're all in water too, right? Yeah. Set that over the axles, right?
Where's my axle?
Yeah.
So do you talk about when your center of mass is too far back, what the consequences are of that? Because there's a great video on YouTube. Have you seen it?
I haven't, but
these guys in a treadmill with a toy truck and a trailer.
oh,
Moves it around, and the instability is amazing. He moves it just like an inch. It's just profound.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really good to me.
Okay, anyway, that was
Told
my
the story?
I already told the story. So yeah, so trailer wiring issues, a lot of times it's a grounding issue. My favorite advice is earn your YouTube trailer mechanics rating. I've definitely scoured YouTube for advice on how to.
The brakes don't release unless the electric's.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, if you have a trailer brake on your trailer, that's something that you need to look into as well, right? And you should be towing a trailer that has a trailer brake with a vehicle that has a trailer brake controller. And if you don't know what that is, let me know and I'll tell
It's
you.
gotta be adjusted.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, I've had at least 3 different phone calls from parents who are picking up the trailer. Who have no idea, like cause we asked them, do you have a trailer brake? Yes, great. And they don't know about adjusting it, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, if it's not adjusted right, the brakes don't release and.
Yeah.
Or you get the brakes a little bit, and the open locks up.
Yeah, right.
Or anything
Yeah.
in between, yeah, Rachel's laughing because she knows what I'm talking about.
so the nice thing about a trailer brake, right, is it sort of allows you to get closer to that maximum capacity of your vehicle, right? And gives you more control, right? Because you know that it's a big weight, right? And it's pushing you forward. So if you have a little help on the back end of your trailer to help slow that thing down, it can help you, carry more gear with a smaller smaller vehicle. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know if there's really not a ton of sort of manuals, online, but you can always look up the manufacturer of your trailer and see if you can find some info. But I mean, it's all pretty basic stuff, and somebody's done something on YouTube, and call a friend. You can call me. I've futzed with trailer wiring a lot. It's always fun. It's a lot of trial and error, and get a creeper if you can, because you're gonna be on your back staring at the ceiling of your shop, wondering why in the world your trailer lights aren't working. Let's see, safety chains, pretty much, required. You should not be towing a trailer without having your safety chains engaged. My father-in-law's trailer, it was a really lightweight boat trailer, but it bounced off after Hag Lake, and he had the chains on, and it saved it from going off the road. So yeah, so chains are key. And so yeah, so Greg, you were saying that the best way to do it is hook it this way versus the other way. This I like the hooks that have a little catch to kind of keep them closed.
The main thing is if you ever get in like heavy grass or whatever, it can literally push the hook off the thing. So
Gotcha.
this way, if it's pushing in the direction of travel,
Travel.
it's unlikely to remove the hook.
There we go.
It's
That
the
makes
logic behind it.
Nice.
And also with the crossing, when it comes off,
It'll land in that.
And it's not gonna catch on the road and flip your whole trailer.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and make sure that you can crisscross these a couple times to pull up the slack, so it's not rub it on the ground and sparking and potentially wearing out your chains. And if you're a commercial guy, there's actually little gauges they have to check your chains to see if you have too much chain wear, because at some point you can weaken your chains with sparks and dragging right enough that they're not technically legal. I don't know that most of us are gonna have that issue, but just make sure there's no cracks in them, right? And then they're in decent shape.
I think one thing that I'm just thinking about it now, often scouts help lower the thing. Make sure that it's actually seated correctly at the ball.
Yeah, right. Make sure that thing is actually kicked over, right? And yeah, and make sure that some of these have a little pull latch, right, that unconnects the ball catch, if you want to call it that. Yeah, there's like a little lock, right? And some of them have those, some of them just flip over. I mean, I would always put a pin. I mean, I think almost all of these have a pinhole to put, either a cotter pin or one of those little flip pins, or I put a lock in mine. Yep. So that is, I think, a good thing to do, because I mean, if you don't confirm that thing is all the way down, if it's not all the way down, you won't be able to get a lock through it, right? So make sure that thing is all the way down, put your lock through, you confirm like, yes, it's locked on. And then after your weekend of hanging out at a state park or camporee or something, go around and check all your connections. Make sure your lights are all the way in, make sure that thing's still down, make sure your chains are still connected, check your tires real quick, just do a walk around. Make sure you've got everything, make sure everything's the way you left it, right?
Pull the chocks out.
Yeah. Done that too. Hey, how come there's a big bump? We just rolled over a big bump. Oh yeah, forgot. Trucks.
Also, real quick, just because it is locked on there and it does have the pin or whatever in it, it can still come off the hitch when you're going over a particularly big bump on Roy Rogers. So you also want to make sure that if you have, can't remember what it's called, but the thing that comes down to hold it up. the jack, you wanna make sure that's all the way up and out of the way, because that's how you ruin your jack.
Yeah,
I mean, we didn't do that, but,
It has been done.
it's been done.
it's been done,
Oh, yeah.
but yeah, no, yeah, the chains are very important. And also potentially make sure your scouts know that if there is an issue with the trailer and everybody pulls over to the side, the scouts should stay in the car and not all get out along the side of the road. Sometimes they need to be told that, because we
If
just
they wanna be
had that,
helpful.
Yeah.
and, you know, Joey knows what he's doing and the rest of them had no clue.
We drove out to Easton on that 126-degree
Yeah,
week.
Yeah.
And one tire, this is when we learned about tire age. And one tire blew and we put the spare one like a mile down, then the spare blew. So we got, and we were, so out there's nothing.
yeah.
Oh,
because they
yeah.
want
We were
everyone to-
a mile from the only town for like an hour in either direction that had, and it had a Les Schwab, so.
Oh, man.
Ultra lucky.
Yeah, no, we-
Disaster.
We've done East.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we took our actual travel trailer.
Oh,
Nice. Next slide.
These are awesome. I love them.
Yeah, this is a cool lock I had not seen before.
It's fairly new.
Yeah, so. Yeah, I don't know if do you have one of these, Greg?
Yes.
or- Yeah.
These are amazing.
It is a, you will need to train people how to use it. I'll just make that
Yep.
statement because it's a little bit of a Lego. Teach your young scouts, they'll know it immediately and then they can help the adults.
Right.
Thing.
Yeah, so anyway, yeah, trailer locks are pretty key. You know, we're pretty lucky in that our trailer can live at my house and it's sort of off the radar, but we park it every year, you know, out in our lot for tree stand. So, you know, we just have a padlock that goes through the whatever the ball catch, right? But we also get a big cable and wrap it around a tree and put a lock on it that's underneath. And we also lift it up on jacks, just so that the trailer is stable. But I think in the past, some people have removed a tire just for the month because it's not going anywhere. So I mean, you know, that's another way, I guess, of preventing somebody from running off with it. But I like these. That's cool.
The main thing is if the chains are loose.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously easy to just
Grab the
just like
chain.
the previous slide,
Yeah.
just hook the chains
Chains
in
up.
and off you go,
Off
and
you
you can
go.
stole the trailer, so.
Yeah.
That, and then the other thing that my troops, because we used to be like way out in Gastonia where we're storing it, but now it's more in Hillsborough. And okay, well, it's all kind of aluminum hardware, all these doors, it's like, well, we're waffling between should we lock it and have someone destroy the door, thinking there's something in there.
Right.
Or do you leave it unlocked and have a homeless encampment inside? So we're mulling over those problems, but it's a
There's no right answer.
kind of, yeah, it's very easy to bend the hardware, even on
Yeah.
like nice trailers, so it's.
Right. Just as a little convenience thing, I mean, we keep a padlock on the back of ours, but we have one of those little push button locks for, you know, like you see on realtors, although they're all fancy now, like old school realtors have like those little, you know, push button things. We just have one of those mounted to the side of our trailer with the key in it for the tongue lock and the rear lock. And somebody could probably break it off, but you know, it's pretty convenient because everybody knows the code for it in the troop. So kind of handy, but yeah. Yeah, so packing list, I mean, it's always good to think about what you're gonna need for your trailer before you actually take off. You know, check your inflation level on your tires, you know, every time you know you're going on a longer trip. I mean, even on a short trip, you know, those things sit for months on end, right? And it might have been a year since you last took it somewhere or many months, right? It's gone through a seasonal change, right? So it's very possible that you lost some air, but yeah, spare tire, jack, tire iron, trailer locks, hitch lock, wheel chocks. Yeah, if you get like a chunk of wood or something you can use to throw under a bottle jack or some other type of jack, you know, because we're scouts, generally we're off in the rough terrain, right? I mean, you're not always gonna break down on the side of a highway that has a has a paved spot for you to put a jack down. Yeah, what happens when water gets into the soil, it just, your jack just gets lower and lower in the ground, so. Yeah, bring a little chunk of 12, 2x12s to jack it up, then you won't have to lift your jack up as much either too, you got kind of like a stack. Yeah, electrical contact cleaner is good. Also, one thing I've used in the past is dielectric grease, which is just kind of it's really a coating. It's not like more conductive than anything else, but it just sort of keeps moisture off of the pins, you know, so it keeps them from corroding and rusting somewhat. So throw some of that, especially on your trailer that just sits out in the elements.
We just have a tub with all of this that
Yeah.
sits in there.
Just
It's the kids are loading the trailer know that tub and the spare tire need to be in there like every time.
right. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, when you start doing the math, right? I mean, there's a lot of gear in there, especially if you got a bigger troop. You know, every kid's pack is, you know, $100 or more, and then, you know, sleeping bags, you know, $100 or more, or sleeping pad, you know, maybe
The
$100.
trailer can be.
Yeah, the trailers, I mean, yeah, I haven't looked into pricing recently, but yeah, I mean, even if you just want like a straight flatbed, nothing fancy, I mean, they're $5,000-6,000 just for a flatbed, right? So I mean, yeah, I mean, your double axle trailer there is probably pushing 7, 8, 10 grand, right? And then I got all this stuff in there, and you know, your tires and you know, so I had our tires replaced last year, and they were about $150 a piece, I think. Yeah, so yeah, it adds up. So yeah, good points here from Greg. You know, make sure you have kind of a troop committee policy on, you know, what people are allowed to sort of to tow, right? And again, you know, yes, you may have a 7,000-pound limit on your truck. You may have a 7,000-pound trailer. You know, at your peril, if you're operating at the upper end of that limit, you know, since nobody's usually generally weighing everything that goes in and out, it's very likely that you will overweight your trailer. And so any of your cushion that you thought you might have had really could be out the door. So, yeah, it's good if you know, have sort of,
We've had a lot of problems with people with mid-size SUVs that have the 2-inch hitch. And it can tow, the manufacturer says it can tow 6,500 pounds, like, I would never want to hook my Highlander up to 6,500 pounds, right?
no,
And yeah, we've had people take those types of vehicles with not camperee level loadout, but more than I'd ever want to do it, and they're pulling back in, popping a wheelie. I'm like, let me time for committee policy on
yeah,
A, what vehicles are appropriate, but B, how we vet trailer pullers before they're allowed to
right.
take this trailer.
I mean, the other thing too is, you know, camperee, you know, for our district is a classic example, right? I mean, everything's hunky dory when you're on paved roads, but you know, you get over the bridge there and, you know, you're starting to get some seriously uneven terrain, right? And just because you can pull it doesn't mean you can back it up over a big hump in the middle of a field somewhere that's, you know, got a gopher hole on one side, right? So
Our troop trailer is about that size and it's to the brim for camperee, and there's people like F-150s, like, no, it's not gonna do it, you know,
Yeah.
like, you know, and we've had them hook it up, like, they're so insistent, okay, we'll hook it up and we'll drop the tongue on it and just explain, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, okay,
How much
no,
squat,
we
yeah.
understand you, right, so.
yeah, if you see squat in your trailer tires, that's bad. If you see squat in the back of a vehicle, that's also bad.
Well, one resource I found is this safe trailering course. So if you just Google for safe trailering, it's like U-Haul and some trailer manufacturers were like, they produce this course, which is a great safety oriented course that you could have prospective trailer pullers in your troop read through. And it's talking about, like Gordon has mentioned, a lot of the, hey, you can't stop as quickly.
No,
Even
you
if your
can't.
trailer breaks and like,
And if it's
it
wet.
gives you some metrics like double your following distance. You know, if it's rainy, add this extra amount, snow, you're crazy.
Yeah.
And all these other kind of things.
Right.
And, so it's not very long, it's like 20 pages, but it's a good read, just to kind of
Yeah.
level set expectations, I think, so.
And the thing I forgot to put in here too is, man, you know, if you're traveling with the troop, you're gonna have tons of spotters, right? I mean, I mean, I back up my trailers all the time at home and, you know, I know my little situation, right? But, you know, whenever I pull into a state campground or camporee or somewhere else, just take the 3 seconds, you know, grab a scout or someone else, be like, hey, can you spot me back here? Make sure I'm not gonna go off the cliff into a, you know, a
Back
ravine.
over the other unofficial spotters.
Yeah, exactly, that too, right? Exactly. So yeah, spotters, walk around. Yeah, just always try and do a walk around, just check everything, make sure it's still good
We
to go.
find ourselves, Marty will back me up on this, arriving at our campsites often Friday evening in the dark. And not only are we putting our tents up in the dark, we have to try to park something
Yeah,
in this little spot in the dark.
backwards in the dark.
And you know, scouts with headlamps are great until somebody's not in the right corner.
Yeah.
The headlamps.
Yeah, the headlamp- Oh, yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But looking up's not a bad idea, backing into a trailer spot.
That's
I've
true.
always taken out a tree branch, so it's, you know. There, so looking up's not a bad idea, but multiple spotters with headlamps is helpful.
Oh, yeah.
And you know, communication skills with your driver that respond for. So you're actually on the same.
Spoken from experience over here.
So like
Yeah.
one policy our troops done is we allow or we vet your vehicle, which includes tire inspection and other things. Prior to the loadout into the trailer, because it's like, I've got this full, you know, XYZ truck or SUV, and then they show up and you're like, oh, wow. Just kind of like, yeah, not safe, not good. So it's, and then there's a lot of hurt feelings. So it's,
Right.
we found it's good to like ahead of time, kind of go through all this with the
Yeah,
prospective pullers.
So we haven't brought up the issue of insurance.
I said bring the insurance card, but that's not, yeah.
Does the charter organization have vehicle insurance for
a trailer.
the troop trailer?
Because the charter organization is the one that technically should be owning the trailer if it's the troops, correct?
Yeah, right.
The chartered organization that owns and operates your unit should also own and operate the trailer if it's truly the troops trailer. If it's a personal trailer that you use as a troop trailer, that's a different thing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And there's a whole thing here of who gets the tag renewal and all that stuff, right? And this isn't easy. But your point goes to exactly that, if it is truly owned by the CO, then the CO should have insurance on it, in theory, unless it's, you know, 1972.
Have a valid tag on your.
Well, there's that, right?
Yeah.
Does that follow your point?
Yes,
Okay,
and yet the follow through on this is the driver of the vehicle pulling this
Have it.
should have their insurance cover the driving, the pulling of that trailer wherever you're going.
Yeah, is your vehicle insured for towing?
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good
So
question.
there's like
insurance period.
two kinds of insurance, one for being there.
Yeah.
As a liability of just being there. And that brings up yet another. What happens when it gets stolen? Do you prepare ahead with T618 on the top of the roof?
That's religious
Google-
talk.
Google
There
nature.
are two camps on that and they fight over it constantly.
Yeah,
And there's no right or wrong answer,
okay.
right? Does everybody know why?
I like the dollar signs on the side.
We're dollar scouts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you put troop something on there, they're gonna, oh, there's gotta be expensive camping gear. So if it's completely stealth, then it could be anything, but then it could be anything.
Right.
So
So.
big,
I don't know.
but door shippers,
The best thing I heard of was somebody put a battery powered GPS tracker of some flavor on their trailer. And they hit it somewhere. Did you hear about this?
Air tag.
Yeah,
Yeah.
AirTag, exactly. You can AirTag your trailer basically. And there are a zillion ways to do it, right?
Yep.
So do you guys do that?
It's on the to-do list now. We've had a little change in leadership, so
Right.
we have Troop 615 on the roof of both of our trailers. And talked to the Washington County Sheriff, they have an airplane, and I get comments all the time, like, we see it at the shed all the time. You go to Google Earth, you can zoom in and you can read it. Granted, the whole thing's littered down the side with everything, but we have it fully enclosed. But our other trailer, minimal stickers, but they both say troop on the roof, because we have law enforcement aircraft in the area, and that's if it gets stolen, they can get that from the air. And they can be like, yeah, it's in the backyard, we found it.
So the thing that we all gotta understand though, is there was a trailer that was stolen fairly recently. And it was like a year or two ago. And by lunchtime, like 4 hours later, it was in Eugene. By dinner, it was in California.
Yeah.
Dang.
There's, seriously, they did, if they're gonna get something, they're gone.
Yeah.
And having an aircraft, a drone, it might not, right? And honestly, it's just, you know, it's the reality of if your trailer is stolen, it's probably never coming back. And if the reason they know is they found, I was looking at Home Depot or something in Eugene, a scout book on the parking lot floor.
Hmm.
And it was, why is a scout book?
It had a name in
Had a
it.
name, had a phone number, we got your scout book. What the heck?
Good job of doing it, Eugene.
What's the scout book? I'm not working on the working merit badge.
Yeah.
On the wheel well.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, right? Yeah. Check your wheel wells before you leave Camporee. Make sure there's no scout books or Dutch ovens or propane stoves ready to fly off, right?
But air tag, especially if it's expensive.
Yeah.
Air tag or something similar might save your bacon. At least you can go, okay, I can see where it is. For what it's worth.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So our troop did have it stolen. This was just before October, before COVID. We found out it went down to I-5
Yeah,
to,
okay, it was your trailer.
Yes.
Story. Was it that far back?
yes,
Feels like it was yesterday.
down
Gordon.
to
Yeah,
Jackson County or,
yeah, it
No.
was way down there.
yes.
Within
And,
like 12 hours.
The county sheriff couldn't see the license plate because
Yeah.
the person who took it
They
ripped
the
that
license- That
off.
was it too. Yeah, they ripped the license plate.
And yet he searched for identification. He found one of the supports with a stamped number on it. Copied that down, found the manufacturing list of vehicle part numbers and could identify, oh, it was sold to Troop 618.
Wow,
My goodness.
that's
That was like
that's an impressive amount of work.
18 years old at
Back
that
on
time.
Trailers that were.
So yes, we got it back about 8.5 months later.
So I heard that you made it all the way to California. Somebody drove it all the way across the state line within like 12 hours.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That could have been, yeah.
Close.
And they
Yeah.
stole it from
This happens fast, right?
our east parking lot.
Yeah.
Totally not visible from Butner Road. Well, so,
They want it, they scope it, they take it.
yeah. So we do have,
I think that's the main thing.
Very
Like
healthy.
The fancy trailer locks, those are all this time deterrence, those are
Right.
that
Yeah.
exact preventers.
Yeah.
It, yeah.
I think that's it. So,
What I read about securing the trailers is. Many thieves can get through a lock or something pretty quickly, but when you put many different kinds of deterrents, that's what. Makes the thieves not go for it,
Yeah.
it's gonna take longer.
yeah,
Yeah, there's other
Real
trailers
lock.
that have less security.
Right, yeah. It takes time to have to do that every time, you know, when you get in it and move it and stuff, but it's worth it if you want to change the trailer and everything in it.
So you move 4 lug nuts when you park it.
yeah, there you go.
They're not gonna work.
That's already a solution.
Or instead of having your troop name.
They don't know there's only one on there.
Yeah,
One.
just put a sticker that says, Wally's, poisonous spider.
Like that.
And Wally's septic service or something. Yeah, there you go.
So somebody brought a trailer for show and tell, or did you want to do a thing first?
Real quick for safety, sometimes when we get to a camping spot, we can't park the tow rig and the trailer at the same time. Yeah. So when you make sure that thing's stable and you don't have multiple scouts, especially if you have a single axle trailer. We've had a couple times where it's been scary. There's lots of tows at the back of the trailer, waiting for stuff to come out, and then the whole thing does seesaw, right?
Yeah.
Because there's too many bodies in motion. So just be aware of that. Maybe set
What
up
do you do to make sure it's stable? Do you have jacks?
basically one person in
Yeah. That's
yeah, load and unload, preferably load and unload while it's hooked up.
Yeah.
And then, after that, we're just,
Well, the other half is, I've done some.
Once it's unloaded, then it's top heavy and we'll just be supportive on that.
Well, the other trick is to put something a little bit heavy like water or propane a little bit toward a bit in the front of the axle. And then if they're pulling stuff out from behind and in the back of the trailer, it'll start to shift forward, like people saying.
Yeah.
And then once you do the heavy stuff, you got one scout that's in the trailer and passing stuff out. And if you have a bigger trailer, that's harder to do. You usually need to have a couple of scouts working on it, right? But just being aware of that is key.
When we have our trailer set up for our tree stand that sits out for a month, we just grab a couple of jack stands and just put them on the backside and then lift the front up and then it doesn't go anywhere. So that helps. They're not, you can get cheap jack stands at Harbor Freight for who knows what, but pretty cheap. Yeah, right. I mean, I wouldn't put a Mack truck under them, but you know, I'm sure they're fine for it.
Challenge accepted.
You guys gotta go outside and report.
Okay, so before we're gonna show and tell them, Megan, do you wanna do a thing?